Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott. This is my Market MRI Pro update for July 16th, 2025. My email address is marketmripro@gmail.com. My Google group, which I'd love for you to join, is called Top Down Trader. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Well, just as you start to think the rally is going to fail, and it's over, you get a day like Wednesday today. Not sure that correction is done and we're not going to have more issues, but boy, was it a strong session, at least in the stocks, a lot of stocks that we've been talking about. Still rotation. Was a weekday, for example, for some of the large cap tech stocks that are heavily owned. Hardly had any move today in Nvidia, although you look at Google, Apple, they all ended up doing okay. Amazon continues to lag. Microsoft was kind of flat. Meta had a tough day, but Meta's been hanging out at near all-time highs. So markets rally on a soft PPI. Jerome Powell on a political hot seat. Is he being fired? Is he not being fired? Was this another Trump throw out the news or let one of your minions say you're going to have him leave? You're going to fire him? You watch the market trade off and then you come back and say, nah, you didn't mean it. You wonder. But you do have to ask, why are we not cutting when the rest of the world is? And we continue to have soft numbers on inflation. Yes, the tariffs are coming, maybe. And we're probably at least a point too high right now. So let's take a look at what we got. As always, this is for educational purposes only. Any recommendations are in the spirit of education and not investment advice. The intent of the videos demonstrate my tools for top-down analysis and how I apply them. Trading involves risk. You alone are solely responsible. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock mentioned in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky and you should consult with your financial advisor before making trades. And I have tools for multiple platforms, but am an independent trader. My Google group, again, Top Down Trader, it's free and you get discounts on anything that I sell. You get some free educational seminars online where I don't put them out on YouTube, and I do them predominantly for people who are either on Top Down Group or own my tools, and it's a way of communication back and forth. So think about it. Oops, wrong way. Big week of news and earnings. We got through the CPI, we got through the PPI. Now we got jobless claims. And what do we want? We got some U.S. retails, import prices, and we got Philadelphia Fed manufacturing, business inventories, and more Fed heads. If job number comes in bad to the downside, probably forces Powell's hand, but then it also makes people worry about the economy. And you keep hearing all these layoffs in technology at the government and in the biopharma. Eventually, they got to hit the numbers. If it's hot, then we know that we won't expect to see a cut, and the market won't like that. I think we want to come in just right, kind of at predicted, maybe a little bit lower. It should be a little bit higher in jobless claims because it's jobless, not jobs. So if it comes in high for jobless, that probably forces the Fed. If it comes in low, the Fed will like it. So backwards from what I thought. Earnings on Wednesday, well, we saw ASML took a big hit this morning. The banks kind of fumbled with their earnings. They weren't bad, but I guess they weren't good enough. On Wednesday night, we had United. Let's see if I got my stats out about if anything was a big mover. I mean, the big mover after hours was Sarepta, but it moved on restructuring. I'm looking at the other major airline, other stocks. MCRI up 15.6, SPFI up 5.3, Air up 3.7, and REXR up 2.2 on earnings. And then Starwood down 3.3 as it's making some acquisition. Thursday before the open, you got more bank. You got Cintas. You got some healthcare, big healthcare, Abbott, Novartis. and then PepsiCo for the consumer staples, and look what you got Thursday afternoon, Netflix. And it's a period of positive seasonality, so we'll have to see what Netflix brings us. As it says in the lower right-hand corner, it is a um, judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. I look at how fat I am with profits, and if I'm not, why would I hold them and risk it? I better have a good edge, like strong earnings seasonality. But it's bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. Uh, a couple of things we talked about yesterday. Typically, I expect the index here, which is a leaders index, to roll over before the market rolls over. And all we've done, and we created this back here, is we ran up and went pull back, shallow pullback. We've held at the 17, and we had a nice positive session, up 2% today. So I think we're holding on the index. Also pointed out yesterday that we don't usually see major corrections without getting a Hindenburg omen, and we didn't see one yesterday or today on the NASDAQ or the NYSE. So maybe this should be some optimism. If you're a Market MRI customer and you have Market MRI Pro customer and you have any issue with installations, error messages, frozen computers, missing charts, reach out to Praveen at coding at marketmripro.com. If you like what you see here, I've extended the 4th of July sale. You'd have to reach out to me pretty quickly. It's over Saturday morning to marketmripro at gmail.com and consider joining the top-down group. And I think that's it. So let's go look at the program. So I like to start here, and this is always on one of my computers during the market day. It's such a nice thing to see. Bitcoin was up 2.52. It was up the entire session, traded at 63rd percentile of its range. Russell led to the upside, up 1%, closing right off of its highs. Volatility was up, but well off its highs, was up 5.46%, and it finished up only 0.66. Diamonds up 0.5%. Spiders up 0.33%, both of which were up at the daily highs. And the Qs lagged, although they turned positive at the end. And they, maybe it's catch up for the other indexes, and they were sort of at 2/3 of their range. And the dollar, which was rallying, gave up some. That probably helped the rally today. If we look at one-day change of the S&P 500 sectors, you could see the only thing negative was energy, but certainly utilities, discretionary, never mind. Yeah, that's right. The only thing negative was energy, utilities, discretionary, materials. All these were modestly higher. Technology made a nice run later in the day. You could see it finished right up at the top of its range, up 0.31. But it was consumer staples and industrials and tech leading this. Nothing up a ton, nothing up a ton at all. I love this tool here where I can look at 3 different indexes, S&P 1500, NASDAQ, the NYSE, and I can look at number of sectors up versus the prior day, industry groups up versus the prior day, and you can see strong on Wednesday across the board. But I could also see that 70% of the S&P 1500 were up, 64 of the NASDAQ, and 63% of the NYSE. I get those the program gets them real time. We don't stream real time. All you have to do while you're in the program during the day is click on that little circle thing, and you saw how quickly it switched. Timing model, if it was positive yesterday, we're still bullish. You could see how on the daily, we have big bottoming tails across the board. You like to see that if you think you're having a reversal here to go back up higher. So maybe that's a positive sign. I think it is. Hammers. And if you look at the weeklies, another doji day. That's less favorable because it sounds like a lot of indecision at all-time highs on the spider and the Qs. And look at this. We set a new closing high for the week here, which I suspect was it set today? Let's look at the daily. We'll look in a few minutes. You can see we still have a bit of a flag here on the diamonds, and kind of a flag with some dojis here on the Russell weekly. So everything on their buy sell sign are green. So weekly up, daily up, no Hindenburgs, no obvious signs that the market's going to collapse. Yeah, there's some fleas. We'll talk about them. I still think we go higher. U.S. index ETFs. So you could see Spider pulled into the 17. The Qs basically pulled into the 17. The diamonds bounced off the 17. The Russell traded through it and closed above it. Maybe that was the washout day we needed to have. It didn't feel like a washout day to me. Frankly, it was not a bad day in the U.S. markets altogether. But all of these candles look like candles that say we want to go higher. So if we look at the spiders, let's just bring it up big. We're still in the midst of our V-bottom recovery, and we talked about healthy pullback. Rest. Are we ready to go to new highs? We better soon, because seasonality is going to start to get a little bit sideways to negative. So that's the only thing that scares me, and it seems to peak in the August time frame. So what comes in 2 weeks? August. So something to be aware of. But I think that's a bullish looking candle. Seasonality looks okay. I think that is poised to go higher, and as we talked about, it was up 0.33. I'm not as excited by the change. I'm excited by that little tail, and not a little tail actually. It's a pretty good sized tail. Here's the Qs. Doji, long tail, still in positive seasonality for a little while longer. Run up, consolidation, pull back to the 17 and breakout. That's my hope. Yeah, we could pull back to the 50. I don't think I see that happening, but it certainly could. But all in all, I think you got to say that this was a pretty good reversal day back to the upside after the negative reversal a day ago. So we hit the all-time highs early on Tuesday, so we didn't quite get back there today. Got close. If we want to look at the Dow to see what we think the Dow is likely to do, as I said, the diamonds look like they're in a bit of a flag, big run up, pullback, and a breakout here could get me about 60% of this run. So I'm looking for a breakout of the flag. Right now it's resistance. Nice bottoming candle here suggests that maybe the market does want to go higher. If we look at the IWM, similar story, and I think we could also say that this thing is kind of flagging as well. And long-legged doji, the 17 held, closed back above the 17. The VIX, VIX is sort of an opposite looking pattern, where the equities had a bottoming tail. The VIX traded all the way up to 200 and collapsed. Now the VIX on the session was down 1.32%, and this would be the VIX futures. But that's a reversal candle. Does that mean the VIX is done threatening us? I don't think so. I'll keep an eye on it still. As I mentioned, what may have helped us a lot was the dollar, which had been significantly rallying, taking out this trend line, traded higher, and then it pretty much collapsed and ended up closing on the session down 0.36. No, it's not a collapse. It did have a bottoming tail. It can still go higher, but that's not a very strong candle, especially after this breakout here and a break of the 50-day moving average. So my dollar is suspect of whether it keeps going higher. Commodities, you'd expect them to be up with the dollar doing that reversal, and what you got was small candles up on the gold was up 0.5%, sitting on the 50. Silver, which is flagging, was up 0.44. Oil's heading back to test the 200. Natural gas may be heading back to test the 200, but from the bottom coming up. And then you could see the 10-year gave back some of its strength, yield 0.71. We gapped up, traded well above 5. We closed above 5%, which I think is dangerous on Tuesday. And we closed in that area. We're down a little bit on the day. I'd love to see yields come down here. Buckets, strong day. So we had stocks came off the bottom of the buckets and moved towards the right. So I call that a little bit of a shift to the right. Pretty neutral looking pattern, no signal. Market breadth, you could see a nice reversal candle here on the NYSE. I think the NYSE is also flagging. We'll have to trade above that. And you could see sort of a pause in the market here on the NASDAQ composite right off the highs, both of which have bottoming tails. When we look at stocks above the 20 in green, 50 in white, 200 in red, little nub up across the board, but we're not at any extended point. On the new high, new lows, positive on both, but we've come down. And you could see how persistent new highs greater than new lows have been on the NYSE. Advanced decline line is still positive, as is the up-down volume. And I don't see any signals of the Ian signals coming in into the market today, unless that bang. Well, I think maybe that bango hit today. So the bango is a exuberant buying signal, which we've been seeing a lot. I made a comment yesterday. I made it earlier. You don't usually see major collapses without a Hindenburg omen. Sometimes I have found that that Hindenburg omen occurs on the NASDAQ. Newsflash, that's not what the textbooks talk about. They talk about the NYSE. I think the markets have evolved. I think that the NASDAQ and the NYSE have a different constituency. So I look at both, and you could see before the break up here on both the NYSE and the NASDAQ, we had Hindenburgs before the big pullback. The lack of them may be reassuring. Market breadth 2, which we're probably going to publish this to everybody. I've got spiders. I got NASDAQ Composite. I've got S&P 1500, and I got the Russell. And really the message here is the 13-week new high, new lows have come off significantly. No pressure there on the markets. You could see on the spider, I mean, all of them, you see a double turn up of the stocks above the various moving averages. Here is the advanced decline line, which I didn't do a lot of work on, but you could see there's divergence in this versus, well, yeah, you have divergence here. The market went higher, and the advanced decline on the NASDAQ did not. Probably could argue the same thing here, sideways move, AD falling. But what I thought was more remarkable was the RSI divergence across all 4 of these asset types. So we're not out of the woods. We still have reasons to think this market could be topping. You have indecision at all-time highs. I still think we go higher, barring a shock in the news. But we've got a day coming in a couple of weeks, which is, what did he call it? It's not independence. It's, well, whatever Trumpster called it, President Trump. It is probably another day that could shock the market. So we have to be careful here. If we look at the ratio charts, so these are charts that compare the underlying versus the spider. Still at great strength here in technology. Industrial looks good. Really, and then Bitcoin. Those are the big leaders right now. Technology, industrial, and Bitcoin. Communications laid an egg. Financials may be trying, but of late it's been tech and Bitcoin, even with the rotation we've seen. Now, I'll take a little victory lap. Those that watched my Sunday video part 2, and I did a workup. So we have Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday. So this is where we were on Sunday. And I chose Centris as my example to do my options workup. The downside was a $200 option. You either had to buy at 200 or 210, and it was 206. So maybe it's one more day. Oh, I always mess that up. It was 206. Yeah, so this was the day. And we looked at various strategies, but all of them had a call at 200. It was a $26 call, so we looked at broken wing butterflies. We looked at ratio back spreads, which we didn't recommend because you'd have to move quite a bit to make up the $10. We looked at buying a call by itself, buying the stock, married puts. That $26 option after 3 trading days is now trading between $38.50 and $40. It was, and I did take part of my position off today. I'm still going to let much of it run. I know several of you took trades in there. Look, I do that second part on Sunday to show you how I look at it. I typically want to buy what we look at, so I have a reason to keep following it and talk about it. But that one was a gift to me too. It wasn't that hard to see. I'm sure other people talked about it, but getting a move from 206 to what did it close at today? Closed at a nice number. Closed at 227. So $21 gain in 3 days, basically over 10%. If you have calls, your calls didn't quite double because of the way that calls move up. But still a great trade, and congrats to anybody that took it. So let's just look at the top down, and at least we got some green today. That's a difference. Um, so what I did on the left is I've ranked from top to bottom the S&P sectors today, or not the S&P sectors, but the sectors with my 3,700 stocks in it. In fact, if I click them all, you can see you got 3734. Here are the industry groups. When you have something without a name, just skip it. There are things that have to be put back to where they belong. Our data vendor has a tendency of creating that mess for us. So what I like to do is let's take the three, financials, healthcare, and real estate. Lots of rotation in these because these have not been the leaders. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can already see something very different with the asset managers and biotech and drugs coming in than what we've seen. You got 592 stocks. I'm not looking at that, but I could put a $5 filter in a 500,000 shares, and now I've got 244. And probably my favorite way to look at it is to start with those that had a lot of up dots. Madrigal, pharmaceuticals, you'd have to know more about the stock than I do. J&J had an upgrade and took off. These are junky patterns. They're not tight at all. Zymeworks, at least setting up a base off of this low, had a CPR today. It's already in an EMS buy. It had volume breakout momentum coming out of the squeeze, PSAR reversal. That one looks okay. Victory Capital Holdings, big gap up. I always look to see how much they pay of a dividend, 2.39. Good earnings per share, 1, 2, 3. So you have $1.47 versus $1.16, so 30 cents, 22% gain. Not that excited, but it's a group that's working. One that I do like a lot, and I didn't see any news today on Summit, but I didn't really look. And people know this is a stock that I gave folks at 8. Oh, great. Fraud investigation. Really? Last week they were talking about a potential acquisition or partnership with AstraZeneca. The biggest problem that this company has is market cap. It's already like 17 or 18 billion. How much is it now after the increase? Oh, now you're not going to tell me. Doesn't have the fundos. But if you look at a monthly chart, how could you be unhappy as a shareholder here? Um, you know, I don't understand all these lawsuits, but I'm the lawyer. It spikes on news of data. It has a really exciting cancer drug in development. It didn't make sense that it would work, but it's worked in multiple studies. Summit, it's probably too expensive to get into now. Owl, Blue Owl Capital, I bet this pays a bigger dividend. Nope, 2.8%. Cura Oncology, another small biotech, not that exciting. INMN, Immunomome. Interesting, that's going to take out the 200, lots of blue down here. Don't know much about this. It's probably another first preclinical. It's focused on developing first-in-class and best-in-class targeted cancer therapies. All right. Still doesn't have any much to show for it. GLXY, I don't know this. Galaxy Digital, another asset manager. Breaking out here, it's a low-cost stock. Ares, another asset manager, much more expensive one, been around, 3.74. It hasn't performed well this year, but the one I'm in is KKR. It's in long-term accounts with acquisition prices like in the 20s in my retirement money, and I don't trade that very aggressively, so I'm willing to take drawdowns. It still hurts when you look at your balance. I'm one of those, you make most of your money by holding long term, and then I run my short term, and I'm very short term accounts. And you could see what this thing has done over time. We'll see if it gets back up there, and I don't regret not taking profits a long time ago. And it pays a little dividend, very little, 0.5%. So you can go down through here as many as you want. Halo is a biotech company that I've been in and out of, but most of biotech has been sick. But when you see so much biotech here, Genmab has a number of hot products in the market, marketed by others. You could see good earnings per share growth. Revenues kind of flat. Um, you know, even though I'm in this space, I'm a physician, and my day job is a health tech entrepreneur, healthcare tech, and I work with a lot of these companies. It's still hard to pick which ones. So sometimes, if I think biotech is turning around, I just buy LABU, and that might be something to think about. It shouldn't pay a dividend, and I believe it's now 2x biotech. It used to be 3. It's either 2 or 3, maybe it's still 3. If biotech is bouncing off the bottom, then this thing will have a big move. And then the other one I saw here, BX, is one I've owned from time to time. It's another asset manager, Blackstone. Beautiful breakout here. And what does this pay for a dividend? 3.35%. I already have a big position in KKR, and I think what drove it today was a news bit talking about letting private money involved, or is it going to be retirement money funds, something to invest in hedge funds. All right, so next thing I would do is I would kill the sectors, and I could look at the top 10 industry groups ranked by one-day performance, and I see pretty much the same thing. I'm still kind of amazed that biotech is up there. So that to me is how I do top-down investing. Bottoms up, a little bit different. I'll look at the whole market. For me, the whole market is defined as the NYSE plus the NASDAQ plus the Amex. Filter it for $1 and 100,000 shares. And then the first thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to leave those filters on. I'm going to put my pullback and uptrend filter. And I want to find stocks where they've been in an uptrend, had a little bit of a hiccup within the last 9 days. They crossed back over to a buy on the daily bongo. The weekly bongos never come out of a buy. Let's rank them by the dots. Rigetti. Quantum computing, at some point it's going to be hot. Is this going to be the big winner? I don't know how to pick the big winner. Remember, I'm a doc, but boy, what a strong session. Off of free parking area, big move today, up 30%. Now, when it's happened, you expect it to pull back some. But if this forms a flag, this might be interesting. Maybe you should chase it. It's just not what I do. I don't know DTST, data storage. We looked already at Zymeworks. This showed up in the top-down perspective. This is a weekly chart. It's in an uptrend, and seasonality is going higher. So probably not my favorite stock, but the chart doesn't look too bad. Vivo Power Energy, don't know this. It's a cheap one. Is this involved in data center power? I don't know. Compliance with the listing, probably not going to be going there. We looked at VCTR, Unity Software, big breakout here. Whew. I mean, big breakout there on great volume, relative strength in OBV. When are earnings? Earnings are August 14th. They've been negative. Revenue's been relatively flat. Was there news on it today? Not hard to figure out why. Let's see. Target raised to 35. Well, I'd have to know more about that person, but it kind of looks like it closed today at 33.90, 34. There's not a lot of room there. SRM, entertainment stock. Here's that Blue Owl Capital. New York Mortgage Trust. Bet this one pays a big dividend. 21%. It's probably too big to be. It's probably real, but you got to get nervous. I get nervous when I see that. I can keep going. There's that Immunome again. ARM had a nice session. ARM has been kind of up and downsy. ADTN also looked interesting today. Not extended. Okay. Here's your flag and a big breakout on massive volume. Volume breakout, momentum, relative strength at OBV. This may be the best one yet tonight. Earnings are August 4th, so I got a couple weeks. Look at the change that came in the last couple and surprises. ADTN had a great session today. That might be an interesting choice. I'll put that on my list. Shopify, I've been in and out of. This one looks like probably better to be in of than out of right now. Shopify is starting to run. And then you've got the small nuclear reactors, which are popular with all the data center folks. And here's NNNE, which is running. So there are a lot of interesting things out there. Now, another thing I like to do is I've got a secret scan, and I found that if you think about a stock that has a big move, the natural tendency the next day is for it to pull back some and maybe form a flag before it takes the next leg. But what if it takes two big moves in a row with no pulling back? Well, maybe it pulls back on day 3, but maybe it's something that's really starting to build up some energy for a big move. So I built a scan looking for 2 days of momentum up and down. We don't want down, we want up. We're going to hit okay. Let's just look at these. INBS, I don't even know who this is. It's a cheap stock. I probably shouldn't even looked at it. Let's put on my $5 and 500,000 shares. I don't buy stocks less than $5. It has to be a very special reason. HYPD, it's an IPO. Next, CAI, Caris Life Sciences. It's moving. We talked about it last week. Not last week, yesterday. It was IPO, I think, on the 21st or something of September. It's taken out its post-IPO highs. It's in the molecular diagnostics oncology space, a very similar space as something like Tempus. And Tempus has been a stock that's very volatile. VTEX, another cheap stock. We looked at this as a technology play, don't know anything about it. Imagine that. Minimally makes money, not a lot of revenue, probably too small for me to even think about. And then AMRZ is an IPO. So this one doesn't help me today. Another one of the scans I like to do is one of my buy signals is a CPR buy. And we'll put that on with the same prices. And let's get it, we're in an uptrend most of the way, so let's get above the 200. And we want a daily, weekly, or their weekly buy to be in a, weekly bond will be in a buy mode. Still got 109, let's rank them by dots. Rigetti comes up to the top, J&J, that Zymogen, Summit, New York Mortgage. So just different ways of finding good stocks. Still like this ADTN. So on that note, I'm going to hang it up. So congrats to those that did Lou with me, LEU. Don't guarantee we'll ever get that happen again. But when you get that big move that quick, sometimes it's good to put some money in the bank and then you can smile and come to one of my live meetings. Maybe buy my software. So hope you all have a great day of the market Thursday. Remember, we got jobless claims. We got a bunch of other data, import prices. We got Fed heads. I wonder if we're going to flip the odds if that jobless thing comes up showing weakness in the job market. Do we flip it, the Fed, to more likely than not to cut in July? Or does Powell dig in his heels and say the big FU to Donald Trump for causing all this pressure? Just makes our life much more fun trading in the land of entropy. Have a great day in the market on Thursday. Hey, I love doing these every night. It makes me follow my plan. I, I've had a great year this year where I showed you the results on that Saturday webinar we did. Um, Showed you my statement from Schwab. And I think the reason why I'm having a great year is because I've stepped up the number of videos I do because it forces me to stick to my plan. Stick to my plan. Top down trading. When the market's strong, I attack. When the wind's at my back, I attack. But when the wind's in your face and the market's rolling over and you've had those Hindenburgs, you raise cash and you stop paying chutes and ladders with your money. Talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for letting me do this.